Hello, class. This is Mr. Hart, and in this podcast, we want to continue the climate chapter of our textbook. And last time we talked about the different things that affect a climate, but now we want to talk about how we classify climates. So instead of looking at every individual area and giving it its own climate name, we can kind of group certain climates together. For example, the climate in Utah is going to be very similar to the climate in Colorado. The climate in Mexico is going to be very similar to the climate in Venezuela. The climate in Australia, on the east coast of Australia, is going to be very similar to the weather in the west coast of California and things like that. So certain areas have very similar climates because they're very similar in location on the continent and what ocean currents are flowing through and what the atmospheric circulation is and things like that. So we can classify these things together into what we call a biome. And so if you think of the word biome, it has the word bio in it, which means life. And so biome means really what type of life can live in these certain areas. So if two areas are in the same biome, that means life could probably live in each one of those areas. Okay? So hopefully as we go through this kind of makes more sense, but let's look at some of the different biomes. Okay, so there's the tropical biome, the desert biome, temperate biome, continental biome, and the tundra biome. Okay, so these are just kind of the five main ones. There's subcategories and subcategories of these, and you could obviously be much more specific, but these are kind of the five big ones that we want to know. Okay, so let's just look at each one of these. Okay, so the tropical biome. Okay, so you probably have thought of tropical places as usually pretty pleasant places. Okay, they're usually vacation spots like Hawaii and the Bahamas. Okay, but just to be tropical, all you really need is a lot of rain, and it needs to be pretty hot. Okay, so a tropical biome basically means you have rainfall, and the area is pretty hot generally. Okay, or pretty warm. So places like the rainforests, the Amazon, okay, coast of California, Mexico, Indonesia. This is a picture in Indonesia, I believe. Okay, all those areas are going to be considered tropical because they have rainfall and they're hot. Now, obviously, there are going to be some differences. Okay, some are beaches, some are forests, but they all share this common trait. Okay, so we give this its own biome. Okay, so this is the tropical biome. And so, if you think about what types of areas on the Earth will be tropical, it's going to be all the areas near the equator. So you can kind of see areas near the coast, near the equator. Okay, they are all going to be tropical. Okay, now you'll notice that it pretty much almost cuts directly through the equator and anywhere near the ocean. Okay, that's going to be tropical. All right, the next biome is the desert biome. So you know what a desert is, obviously, and you probably think of cactuses, and somewhere near Arizona is what I usually think of when I think of a desert. But here's a picture in Utah as well, and you'll notice there's lots of snow on the ground. Now, it's kind of weird to think about Utah as a desert, but it is. It's very dry. Okay, it's not always very hot, but the key feature for a desert is dry. Okay, it has to have under like 10% rainfall compared to a certain average. I don't remember exactly how they calculate it, but if you look at Utah, you look at Arizona, one's very hot, one's very cold sometimes, but they're both deserts. Okay, it's just dry area. Okay, so if we want to look at where deserts are going to be, where the desert biome is going to be on the Earth, what areas? It's going to be areas that are very far inland. Okay, so Western Australia, Utah, Arizona. Okay, Northern Africa, the Middle East. Okay, Western China. These are all going to be very desertous areas because they're usually inland. They're usually far away from a coast, and they don't see a lot of rainfall because of a mountain or something like that. Okay, so all desertous areas. Some can be cold, some are very warm. Okay, but the main feature is that they're all very dry. Okay, so that's the desert biome. The next one is the temperate biome. So this is kind of the umbrella biome is what I like to call it. It fits a lot of areas. It's basically any area that is mild in rainfall and mild in temperature. So usually mild rainfall. And apologies for writing with a touchpad. Touchpad is not the best. But it's going to be mild rain and mild temperatures generally. Okay. So think of the east coast of the US, think of Europe. Okay, rolling hills, forests. Okay, usually not very many mountains. Okay, but these are all going to be the temperate climate. A lot of parts of the earth fit under the temperate climate definition. Okay, and so this one usually can be broken up into many different pieces, like forest areas, flat areas, mountainous areas. Okay, but we're not going to focus on that in this class. We're just going to understand that the temperate biome's the mild biome. Okay, pretty much mild in everything. And so temperate areas are like the East Coast, Northern California, Europe, okay, parts of South America, China, Eastern Australia. Okay, so again, mild temperatures, mild rainfalls. Mild rainfall is going to fit a lot of different areas. Okay, so that's the temperate biome. The next one is what we call the continental biome. Okay, so continental's kind of interesting because for part of the year it looks like the temperate biome. Okay, so think of like Alberta, Canada, if you're familiar with what Canada looks like. For the summertime, it looks a lot like the temperate biome. You got forests, you got trees, pretty mild summers, but then in the wintertime, it can get very, very cold, lots of snowfall. Okay, it almost becomes like tundra. Okay, so if you'll notice in these trees, they're very tall and their branches are very skinny and their leaves are very few. Okay, that's intentional. Okay, these trees have adapted over time because they know during the summertime it's going to be nice and warm and they could grow a lot, but they're also going to have a very harsh winter. So they're not going to grow as many leaves. They're not going to have as thick of branches because they don't want to have a ton of damage during the winter time. Okay, so continental areas have summers. Okay, they have mild summers. Okay, but they also have very harsh winters. Okay, so Canada is a big place for continental. Russia is a very continental area. Okay, but it's mild summers, or they look like the temperate biome during the summer, but during the winter it's very, very harsh. Okay, so that's continental. Mild summer, harsh winter. So if you think about what areas are going to be continental, okay, it's going to be mainly Alaska, Canada, and Russia, and some parts of Eastern Europe. Okay, these are continental areas. Because when you think of those areas, you think of snowfall, right? You think of harsh ice, snowfall, those types of things, but they can be fairly warm during the summertime. Okay, so they kind of transition between mild summer and then they switch to that harsh winter. Okay, all right, and then the last one is tundra, which is what you probably think of, which is just ice and snow, just all year round, just cold all the time, and that's pretty much the right definition. Okay, tundra is just cold all year, snowfall all year, ice all year. It's just very, very cold. Okay, so not a lot of livable areas are tundra. It's just going to be mostly very northern Canada, very northern Russia, and I don't know why Greenland's not colored in on this map, but Greenland, the North Pole, obviously, Antarctica, those are all going to be tundra areas. Okay? But that's all we want to cover for this podcast. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's pretty intuitive. So you should know the 5 different biomes and what some of the features are. And again, just think of it as the different climates. But hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.